Today on Investigate TV Plus, Black and Latino families fight for fair property values after lower than expected appraisals. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Our investigation digs into claims of bias that's cost minority homeowners hundreds of thousands of dollars and highlights the people working to make changes. Plus, a signature on the dotted line signs away the deed to a house. But there's just one problem.
She can't sign a deed 3 months after she's died.
We take an in-depth look at how thieves get away with deed theft.
Then baby boomers pop the housing market bubble.
We're extremely happy here, and there's just really no reason for us to downsize or look for anything else.
We explore the impact of a generational tug of war between seniors who refuse to move and young families who are looking to buy.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
Buying and selling a home can be a bridge to building wealth, yet some minority homeowners say they're hitting a stumbling block along the way because of the color of their skin.
A September 2021 report from federal lender Freddie Mac found that out of 12 million appraisals, 12.5% of properties in Black neighborhoods and 15% of properties in Latino areas received appraisals lower than predominantly white neighborhoods.
Investigative reporter Carice Jackman looks into cases of alleged appraisal bias and what's being done for those being undervalued.
It's part of the American dream, purchasing property, creating generational wealth. But building that American dream hasn't been equal for everyone. Terry Horton says he experienced this firsthand in 2022.
I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Part of Horton's American dream as a landlord was to make affordable housing units available for people in his Cincinnati community. It's why he decided to refinance his property in order to finance his dream project. To do that, Horton had to go through an appraisal process, which allows banks to determine the value of a property.
Initially, the lender gave me an estimated value of $500,000.
But when he got his appraisal back, Horton says it was a lot less than what he expected. The value was appraised at $359,000. That $141,000 difference from the initial estimate is what's called an appraisal gap. Appraisal gaps create a few problems: buyers backing out of a home sale, or, as in Horton's case, banks being reluctant to lend more money than an asset is supposedly worth. He also had 2 additional appraisals done on the property. Both of them came back with values higher than $359,000.
Unfortunately, this is a problem that is truly pervasive throughout the nation.
Sharon McGowan, Horton's attorney, helped him file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD.
We saw the appraiser ignore sales that had happened on the same block as Mr. Horton's property and go to a blacker part of town to find properties that he was going to treat as sort of the comparables.
The lender never responded to our questions about Horton's appraisal, and the first appraiser defended his calculation, saying in a statement he used papers submitted by Horton and that comparison properties used in the later appraisals weren't equivalent. Horton and McGowan's concerns about discriminatory practices against African American homeowners is nothing new. In the 1930s, a discriminatory practice, now known as redlining, blocked access to mortgages and other loans to entire communities, primarily those of color. Federal officials created a manual for lenders that graded neighborhoods on the financial risk of a property loan in that area. Grades heavily influenced by the race and ethnicity of those living there. Experts say those systemic red walls still linger to this day, including in the appraisal process. Our national investigative team reviewed federal data on home appraisals from 2013 to 2021. When we looked at historically redlined census tracts, we found that on average, minority-owned properties experience appraisal gaps at a rate higher than those with white owners. Low valuations, often with high financial consequences. For example, when we looked at minority-owned 3-bedroom homes in redline areas, we found when there was an appraisal gap, the difference was often more than $10,000, up to $60,000 in some cases.
We're taking measures and considering options to stamp out appraisal bias.
Zixta Martinez is Deputy Director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and is on the task force charged with increasing fairness in the lending and valuation process.
Where you live is a sense of security and a sense of who you are. And systematic undervaluation of neighborhoods and communicates detrimental messaging to the people who live there and has a real toll on people.
Just because that we have disparities in outcomes, it doesn't necessarily imply the reason is racial bias.
Tobias Peter is the co-director of the Housing Center at the American Enterprise Institute.
We think that there are plenty of other explanations like locational differences, market conditions, quality of home upkeep that may explain some of these differences. So market conditions clearly matter.
But InvestigateTV found multiple examples across the country of identified cases of appraisal bias. In Kentucky, an appraiser surrendered her license after describing a town as having, quote, a black race population above state average. The state and the Freddie Mac appraiser quality monitoring team found this language subjective, racial, or stereotypical, which is prohibited by real estate appraisal standards.
What should be done to address that?
I think that's a huge problem. And I think what would help is if we were to provide data.
But our team found many states don't track bias-related appraisal complaints or don't make the information public.
There's a lack of minority appraisers that would really help the situation.
Thaddeus Dawson is the president of 10K Black Appraisers and 10K Minority Appraisers Foundation, 2 organizations working to make sure people of color are represented in the industry by offering training programs, paid internships, and other opportunities to young people.
And unfortunately, due to the bias and discrimination, people of color have lost a tremendous amount of equity that they will never, ever be able to recover. So that equity is what separates you from poverty and opens up legacies.
As for Horton's dream, for now, it'll have to wait. By the time Horton's lender finally acknowledged one of the other appraisals and offered him a refinance plan, the interest rates had risen and were too high to complete his American dream. Win or lose, Horton says he'll continue pushing for fair and equitable appraisals so other minority homeowners aren't left feeling undervalued.
In January 2024, the Appraisal Standards Board revised its ethics rule to include a section titled Non-Discrimination. Its goal is to clarify that appraisers must have knowledge of and comply with all anti-discrimination laws and regulations that apply to the appraiser. In Washington, D.C., I'm Carice Jackman.
Our in-depth coverage of appraisal bias continues on our website, InvestigateTV.com. Just search Undervalued. Many first-time home buyers have discovered a gray area in the real estate market.
Still to come, we explore how seniors wanting to age in place contribute to a lack of inventory.
But first,
it's usually a fairly routine process.
A grieving family was left in the dark when their loved one's house was sold without their knowledge.
There's no way that this lady could have possibly signed the deed.
We examine a form of fraud known as deed theft and show you how to protect your property. Whether you're in the market for a home or selling, the deed is an essential part of the transaction.
A deed documents the legal transfer and ownership of property. And in some states, the experts we spoke to say deeds can be an easy target for scam artists because of a lack of oversight. In Georgia, our investigation found fraudulent deeds are often filed in clerks' offices because proof of identity is not required.
We'll give you insight into the signs you may be the victim of deed theft and how to protect yourself coming up. But first, reporter Sierra Cummings goes in depth with an Atlanta woman who says her sister's home was stolen after her death.
He said it was a crazy story, that there's no way this could be.
The police officer said that?
Yes.
An alleged property crime so absurd it'd be comical if not for Brenda Booth's grief. She's mourning her last sibling, sister Claudia Marie.
I'm an orphan. I felt abandoned. It was really, really hard.
January 2022, Claudia died. Since her health had long been declining, her sister says death was expected. But the complexities that followed in this case, Brenda never anticipated.
Yeah, it's been a doozy.
With help from attorney Daniel Calamaro, Brenda filed paperwork in probate court to handle all the assets of her late sister. Among the assets, Claudia's Clayton County home in the city of Rex.
It's usually a fairly routine process. You gather the assets, you gather the debts, you notify the creditors, and you make your disbursements to the family, and away you go. That did not happen here.
When they tried to sell the sister's home, they learned the house was no longer hers. County clerk records show Claudia's signature on this deed, transferring the home to this private company, EBA Capital Inc. You see Claudia's name right here, signed the 26th day of April 2022. Just one problem. Claudia was already dead by then. She'd been dead for 3 months, according to her state-certified death certificate.
She can't sign a deed 3 months after she's died.
Real estate attorney James Clifton.
How did she do that?
Right, unless she's Lazarus or this company that supposedly received the deed from her sent a witness and notary to heaven, there's no way that this lady could have possibly signed the deed.
Clifton argues there's a sharp jump
growing exponentially
in these cases because there are few state protections.
What they're doing to clients like mine is it's horrible.
As we uncover, to file property paperwork in the clerk's office under current Georgia law, there is no requirement to show ID or prove you own the home. In effect, anyone can file deeds on your house. This veteran attorney claims police are failing to investigate.
Because the general feeling right now, especially from the victims, is that this is a crime fraudsters can get away with.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people feel that way. Attorneys feel that way. We report it to local law enforcement. They tell us that there's nothing they can do about it. They say it's a civil matter only, even though there's forgery, even though there's fraud, which are crimes.
We visited the home to find the new owner.
I'm looking for the owner of the house.
The man there would not tell us why he was at the house, saying he was neither the owner nor did he know anything about the private business EBA Capital Inc. State records show the business is licensed to Emmanuel Clark.
We're calling about the property in Rex, Georgia.
He did not respond to any of our texts or calls. Clayton County officers tried to get answers out of him too after the family filed an official police report. However, when they couldn't verify his identity after talking on the phone with him, they did not pursue arrest warrants for theft by deception.
Do you feel like local officials have taken that seriously?
Not at all. Not at all. So it's been really hard. You don't have anyone to call and say, hey, am I doing this right? What do I do with this? How do I do this? You're just by yourself.
Following our investigation this past February, the Georgia Senate amended a housing bill that would make it a requirement to have an ID when you're filing a deed. It also creates a penalty where the thief must pay 3 times the value of the home they're convicted of stealing. In Atlanta, I'm Sierra Cummings.
If you suspect your deed has been stolen, make sure you put a freeze on your credit and file a report with the Federal Trade Commission's website, identitytheft.gov.
Rocket Mortgage says signs your deed may have been stolen include you stop receiving a water bill or property tax assessment, you receive payment books or other information from a lender you don't recognize, or odd items appear on your credit report.
Bankrate recommends protecting yourself from deed theft by routinely checking your property record. In some counties, you can sign up for a free service that notifies you anytime a document is recorded on your property. And be sure to monitor your credit score with any of the 3 major credit bureaus.
Up next, new home buyers face limited inventory as more baby boomers stay put. We take a look at why empty nesters refuse to fly the coop and how it contributes to the housing crunch.
Then later, relishing relics.
I was curating so many items on my own from exchanging items. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I can't just keep all these items.
We show you how a teenager was inspired to turn his love of antiquing into a business.
You've heard the term millennial, someone born between 1982 and 2000. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates there are more than 83 million, and real estate experts say many are now trying to buy homes.
So when it comes to housing, millennials would benefit from baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964, selling their homes and downsizing. But according to a survey by Realtor.com, that appears highly unlikely.
Reporter Jason Berry explores how baby boomers are making the housing market a bust for young homebuyers.
You know, it was an immediate decision to buy this house.
Don Johnson has lived in this picturesque, carefree home with his wife Evelyn for 27 years, and they have no plans on moving anytime soon.
There's really no financial incentive to leave. You know, I don't see us ever leaving until it comes to the point where, you know, it becomes a necessity.
The 73-year-old retiree is among a growing number of older homeowners who've decided they like living in their larger homes and have no interest in downsizing, which is having a trickle-down effect on the Valley's housing market.
Prices, again, are pushing up more.
Scottsdale realtor Jeff Seabach says in years past, baby boomers and empty nesters would frequently sell their homes to buy something smaller and more manageable, then put the extra equity in the bank for retirement. That's just not happening right now.
Real estate is a good inflation hedge. And because inflation has driven up prices, it's hard to sell something that's appreciating so fast. Whenever I go to a listing and they've owned the home for 12 years or 15 years or 20 years, they get comfortable there.
Seabach tells us a lot of older homeowners own their homes outright or have low interest rates, so it doesn't make financial sense to buy a new expensive home at a higher rate. The lack of family-sized homes going on the market like Johnson's has limited the options for younger Gen Z or millennial buyers.
We're extremely happy here, and there's just really no reason for us to downsize or look for anything else.
Real estate experts tell me even if interest rates drop below 6% this year, it may not be enough to convince empty nesters to sell their house. Mortgage data firm ICE Mortgage Technology says more than 90% of current homeowners with mortgages have rates that are already less than 6%, and most boomers own their homes outright, so the rate lock-in doesn't even apply to them. In Phoenix, I'm Jason Berry.
A silver tsunami, which a 2019 Zillow report defines as baby boomers either downsizing or passing away, could have an impact on the housing market over the next several years. The report shows more than 20 million homes could flood the market by 2037, when the U.S. Census predicts boomers will start passing away at greater numbers. The biggest boosts are expected in retirement hubs such as Tampa, Miami, Orlando, and Tucson, Arizona.
Up next, inspired by his grandmother's hobby.
My grandmother was really into antiques, and so I developed a passion through my grandmother for antiques.
A 16-year-old turns his passion into something profitable. First jobs are almost never glamorous, and a passion for your first gig can sometimes be hard to find. I worked as a mannequin model, you know, one of those fake models at a department store.
So you can stand.
I can stand.
Stand still. Don't
still.
move. Don't move. There you go. Look,
Okay.
she's pretty good, right?
Yeah, I still got it.
I clean restrooms and floors and all that kind of stuff.
That's
at a
definitely not
furniture store.
glamorous.
No, it's not glamorous, but it was hard work. But you know
Paid?
what? It did. It did
Yeah.
pay money. That's a good thing. All right, one teenager in Vermont was inspired to take his love of antiques and turn it into a business. Reporter Alyssa Borden shows us how just a few minutes with Cooper O'Connell will make you forget he's a teenager.
Reborn Antiques in St. Albans isn't your typical antique shop.
When I think of someone purchasing an item and taking it, it's kind of like they're wiping the dust off of it, giving it like a rebirth in their home.
And that's because the owner isn't your typical entrepreneur.
I am 16.
Meet Cooper O'Connell. He's a junior at BFA St. Albans and a busy one at that.
I volunteer coach at our local rec department. I'm the co-editor of our school paper. I'm part of the Interact Club at school.
And on the weekends, he runs his very own antique shop. He does everything from sourcing these treasures at estate sales and auctions.
Really, I'm looking for a unique item in good condition, especially mid-century modern items, because those are very in at the moment.
To making sales. He says he loves the rich history and unique nature of each piece, but the attachment to heirlooms seems to run in the family.
My grandmother was really into antiques, and so I developed a passion through my grandmother for antiques.
The passion might have come from Grandma, but the wisdom and wit to run this business is something Cooper's worked hard for. Balancing school, extracurriculars, work, and just being 16, he built this business from the bottom up.
I was curating so many items on my own from exchanging items. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I can't just keep all these items.
He started selling his own collection of curios online out of a garage, but at the end of November, he moved into his very own official space, chock full of his favorite collector's items.
So these are old issues of Harper's Bazaar magazine. This one right here is from October 24th, 1891.
He might be young, but he's awfully knowledgeable about all things old.
It is an 1820s secretary desk. It is birch, cherry, and bird's eye maple. That's what that veneer is right here.
Citing hours and hours of research.
A Fenton vase, you can typically notice if it's Fenton by the ruffled top.
It's safe to say running your own business is a little more involved than bagging groceries like other teens might do, but Cooper doesn't seem to mind.
My first job was at a go-kart track, getting paid minimum wage working in the 95-degree heat. So I would definitely say this is a step up for me.
While he relishes these relics, Cooper has his eye on medical school, but he says he's planning to keep an antique shop open on the side if conditions allow, which means the everlasting question,
do I want to keep it for myself or sell it?
Isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, from planning her daughter's prom to planning her funeral, a mother loses her child to gun violence.
She was at my feet in a puddle of blood, and I saw everything that a mom should never see.
An in-depth look at the emotional and physical toll a shooting takes on victims and their loved ones.